And we are live. What is up, everybody? This is Nick from P2W Fantasy. Excited for this episode today. Going to be talking about some fantasy fact or fiction. I have two great guests that I've been excited about having on. Both guys that I interact with on Twitter, whether it's sharing their content or just commenting on things. But two very good guys that I want to introduce and make sure we figure out where we can find them and all that great stuff there. So to start things off, I got Michael. Michael, I actually had your co-host on a while ago. I think Anthony was on when I had no headphones and no microphone, nothing like that. So I had him on in the early stage of the show. So I figured got to get the other co-host of the fantasy football face-off. Yeah. So you guys got NFL fantasy betting on that show, FF Face-Off. I'm a big fan of it. Whenever it's live, I myself click on it and listen to it as long as I can. Contributes to the Game Day NFL. You guys have the Podathon coming up too. I know that's a big part of your show. So can you tell everybody, of course, where to find you and then everything you guys got going on and coming up? Would love to hear it.
Yeah. Well, first things first, I'm very happy to be here. So thank you for having me. Nate, it's a good time to hang out with you too as well. You can follow me on Twitter at the FF Realist. The Podathon is the mental health Podathon. I believe July 8th was where we had it. We'll try and do that a little bit before training camp. This way, maybe we can get some NFL players or make it easier for Hayden really to come on with us. But yeah, we'll raise some. That's what's really coming up for us. We're going to raise some money, go towards mental health, suicide prevention, all that good stuff. So look alive for that. And yeah, really just like everybody else, dig into this draft and dig into all the aftermath, and then it's fantasy time. There is no off season, much to my wife's chagrin.
Yeah, I know that's quite the agreement at times is finding ways to take breaks, but then there really is no breaks because you have the NFL transactions that just happened, free agency, and then we're getting closer and closer to that rookie draft. So everybody's grinding away at it. So yeah, thank you for coming on. I appreciate that. Nate, you've been a guy I interact with a lot. I will say one of the coolest things was seeing you on a live stream one time, and I did not expect it at all. I think I was like with my wife having a beer, and I see a P2W fantasy t-shirt just being rocked on that show. So that was like one of the coolest things I've seen in a while. So I did appreciate that. Yeah, but Nate, you and Jen, power couple, got the In Between Media. You guys talk about life. You guys talk about fantasy, obviously. Why don't you talk about, of course, that In Between Media and then where we can find you?
So In Between, we're different, obviously, as you kind of touched on. We don't just focus on fantasy sports. Right now, we're kind of focused on football and kind of all the offseason stuff going on, but we're also running fantasy NASCAR. We have a DFS golf and bourbon tasting show that will be rolling out hard here for the Masters. We had our first episode a couple of weeks back, but my co-host Connor is a international certified spirits taster. So what he's talking about, he knows very well. He's in that industry. So we'll be sampling some different stuff. We're going to be all over. We'll do some bourbons. We'll do some vodkas. We'll probably do some gin, some tequila. So that's cool. I'm really excited about that for the majors season in golf. It's kind of a heavy DFS time. And his picks are really good. Like, he runs some really tight models. And, we just got our normal stuff with In Between. We've got our bi-weekly In Between podcast rolling out. We got that coming up on Wednesday next week. And you can find me on Twitter at JanateJackFF. You can find me with In Between Media at IBT_media, inbetweenmedia.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. So we're kind of all over the place. So having fun with it. And it's cool. I get to work with my wife. So,
hey, that's always a perk, and then you don't have to have those back and forths about being on streams too much and things like that.
Exactly.
Ease.
Well played.
Exactly.
Work smart, not hard.
Absolutely. That's her favorite saying. That is like literally her favorite saying. Says it all the time.
There you go.
So with P2W Fantasy, dropped the news recently, now a member of the Fantasy Points Media Group. So just briefly about them, they have season-long DFS betting content, massive NFL draft content. They just dropped their actual rookie guide today. Actually, it was very nice, very nice. NFL draft guide. They have analytics. I like to go on their site and look up like advanced stats that I throw on, like Nate said, things like TikTok and articles and other cool pieces of content. But check them out at fantasypoints.com/subscribe. On this podcast, you'll see here, you can use the promo code 21win10 for that subscription there. So what Nate and Michael and I have today is Fantasy Fact or Fiction. The reason I like to do this is because there's tons of news that circulates during the off season. So I like to throw in something kind of fun. I ask these guys some questions on whether they think some statements are more fact or fiction and why. So we'll have a variety of topics just to keep things fresh, but we will get into that in a second here.
To win, no fear to give. I feel but I can't forgive. I go all in this time, yeah, I won't regret. I'll pick the best on trip, they don't understand. I play to win, yeah, I play to win, I play to win, yeah, I play to win, I play to win, oh, play to win, I play to win, yeah, I play to win, I play to win.
All right. So again, if you are tuning in, we are talking about some fact or fiction for NFL news, fantasy talk, everything related to that. I like to keep things fresh, so a bunch of different topics here. So I will be asking these guys fact or fiction, and the first one has to do with rookie incoming quarterbacks. So there's been a lot of juggling, as we've all seen, of who's that second or third best incoming rookie quarterback in this class. You know, we just had Justin Fields pro day. Some people are talking about Mac Jones. Some people are talking about Trey Lance, Zach Wilson. What's not talked about, though, often is Trevor Lawrence, because I think a lot of people see him as that QB1 in this class, and then we talk about who's second, who's third. Fact or fiction when it comes to this class? Trevor Lawrence will be a tier above all of Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, and Mac Jones when it comes to fantasy in rookie year one. Curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Nate, we can start with you on this one. Is this fact or fiction?
So right now, I mean, I'm going to say fiction. I think Mac Jones is a guy that a lot of people aren't giving enough credit. I think he's one of the most pro-ready guys in this class. I think he's got a great arm. He's got great instincts. I could see him being on par with a guy like Trevor Lawrence, depending on where he ends up. I mean, if San Francisco really did move up to get him at 4, which it wouldn't shock me. I think he'd fit well in that system. He could be right up there with Trevor Lawrence. All
right. So you're saying Mac Jones around the same tier. Michael, when it comes to these incoming rookies, Michael, when we look at the end of the year, fantasy year one of this rookie class, will Trevor Lawrence be in his own tier, or do you see it differently?
Yeah, I'm going to call fiction on this one as well. And, you know, it's a tough question to answer, not only because we've got the draft coming up, you know, at the end of April. So I think here's the deal. I do like whoever goes to San Francisco, whether that's Mac Jones or whether that's Justin Fields or whether it's Trey Lance, like an RKO coming out of nowhere. The one thing I'll say is it's like a seesaw on Twitter of like these rookies getting hated on. It's, you know, I saw like if Mac Jones gets drafted to the Niners, we can't trust Kyle Shanahan. Like, can you like, do you guys remember the days of Jim Tomasula farting in his press conference and Chip Kelly not knowing how to run the team and Trent Baalke? The Niners have come a long way, yeah, but the one thing in there, I'll agree, Nate, that I do think that if Mac Jones is the guy, in Kyle we trust, because I'm a big Niner fan, I think he'll do well there. But if they do intend to keep Jimmy there, then it's how long till we see that guy. But either way, my point was, you know, you got Denver, Carolina; those guys are hot for quarterbacks. You know, they're after 6. They were waiting in the wings, looking to trade up. You never know. Joe Brady, if he gets his hands on one of these quarterbacks, maybe they can make some magic there as well. So, I mean, for that reason, I'm sure Lawrence will do fine, but I don't think he'll be a tier above the rest of the rookies.
Yeah,
I like those points a lot. When it comes to Lawrence, we all pretty much know where he's going, but like you guys are kind of alluding to, the landing spots could be huge. I agree with San Francisco when you look at, you know, I don't want to use the cliche term weapons, but they do have a lot going on that offense, and bringing in a guy who's going to potentially sling the ball in comparison to the way they've run that offense before will be interesting with Debo and Ayuk and a healthy George Kittle. I'm curious, will the draft shift your guys' personal rankings around a lot, do you think, or is it still just too much up in the air? I know I'm trying to crystal ball it right now, but you know, when we look at like the top 5 quarterbacks coming in, you know, out of this class, or the top 5 running backs last year, things shifted around when CEH got drafted, to the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not saying I put him as my RB1 because I personally didn't, but some people did. So the draft really does have an impact. So will the draft have a complete impact for you guys? And either one of you guys can jump into that.
I'm like, it's 50-50 because talent is talent. And I like a good example, Josh Rosen. Never thought the guy was that talented. Didn't think he really wanted to play that much. And it showed. Like, he went really high in the draft, but I never thought he was going to be that great. It didn't matter where he went. You could drop him in New England, and I still don't think he's going to be a good quarterback. With all the weapons that they've acquired, the players they've acquired, talent is talent. So no, it does matter somewhat, kind of, because like if you've got like Mac Jones goes to San Francisco, but then they don't move Garoppolo and they start Garoppolo, that changes how I look at Mac Jones for this season, not for next season or the season after in Dynasty. But yeah, I mean, in redraft, it's probably going to have more of an effect for me than in Dynasty, I suppose.
Yeah, that was definitely what I was going to say. Good call, Nate. Was if they draft Mac Jones or Justin Fields or whomever, that being the 49ers, if they draft one of those guys, and if they go ahead and trade Jimmy Garoppolo day 2 or right then during the draft night 1, then I think that bumps things up with the rankings. I think that'll shift some things around for sure. But the Niners right now have said that they're not moving Garoppolo. And I based on their press conference, I kind of tended to believe that they were going with that Alex Smith, Pat Mahomes type thing with Kansas City a couple of years ago. They also apparently was put out there today, which I thought it was so foolish. I wondered if it was an April Fool's joke. Was they said apparently the Niners wanted a first-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo, which to me tells me they'll settle for a 2 and walk away smirking. So we'll see what happens there. But I think that's the way in which these rankings would shift drastically.
First round pick for Jimmy G. Yeah, it's tough on a day like today because I've seen so many different pieces of news break today that were not news. So it's hard what to trust today.
The best tweet I saw, and I don't know who tweeted. I think it was a comedian. I forget, but they said April Fool's Day is basically the Olympics for everybody who's not funny. It's like the truest, So
I will say, just on a non-fantasy side note, I'm on the highway. I leave pretty early to go to work every day, and our garage door's been acting funny. So it goes down, it hits the ground, and then it comes back up every now and then. So my wife calls me, and she's telling me, it's coming back up. And I said, okay, well, you got to figure it out. You got to hit the button again. And she's like, no, I've done it 3 times. You need to turn around and come figure this out. And I literally was merging lanes on the highway, and then she broke the news to me. So that one was funny for her, I guess. But some of the sporting news, come on with it, because there's too many people that are, too susceptible to that. We got some good comments coming in. Nate, is that a Red Sox flag? Didn't know you were one of them. Great group here from Kevin.
One of them, jeez.
Oh man.
Oh, I am.
Actually,
I've got a Red Sox tattoo.
I'll tell you
Red
this.
Sox tattoo. And Martin coming into my buddy who lives very close to me. All right, yeah, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say to Nate, and I'll pour one out for you, buddy. I'm actually a diehard Mets fan, but I do love Boston. I have a soft place in my heart for the Red Sox, and my wife loves going to Boston. I have a Fenway Park shot glass here.
Hey, so there you go.
I will do this shot in the Red Sox honor.
There you go.
I love it. Cheers.
Cheers on opening day. Hoping for a good Good White Sox here over here personally, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, so we just talked about some rookie quarterbacks. The first guy I wanted to just briefly touch on, Joe Burrow, ACL, MCL injury this past season. A lot of people still have a lot of faith for him in 2021, and there's some talks about them, adding another piece of that offense. Another guy injured, so we're going through some injuries here. Nick Bosa, also an ACL, I believe. Christian McCaffrey had a thigh and an ankle set of injuries. He was pretty much out for most of the season. Kenny Golladay had a hip and a contract injury. We go down the list here. And, when we talk about these guys with injuries, we look to what can happen in the next season. So comeback player of the year, obviously this past season, it was Alex Smith. The award should be named after him after what he went through and got back on the football field. My question to you guys is, though, I listed Joe Burrow and Nick Bosa and Christian McCaffrey and Kenny Golladay. So a couple examples. One name I keep seeing all the time, though, who's going to be coming off an ACL injury is Saquon Barkley. So fact or fiction, when it comes to next season, the comeback player of the year will be Saquon Barkley. And Michael, we can start with you on this one.
I'm going to go fiction on this one. And not to say that I think Barkley's not going to do well. I think he will do well. I'm going to go Christian McCaffrey here. And and I know it's an easy answer. I love to go Homer and pick Nick Bosa, but come on, this award likes to go to the offensive players, which is, that's the way in which the NFL world works. But I'll go Christian McCaffrey here. Listen, think about it this way. He played in 3 games last year. And I understand the NFL doesn't look at fantasy scoring when they hand out these awards, but he still finished as the 54th best running back in full point. And he played in 3 games. So, and I have to imagine that, listen, if they stick with Teddy Bridgewater, if they draft one of these guys, they're still going to rely on Christian McCaffrey here, more so than I think the Giants will rely on Saquon. I think they want to take the swimmies off of Daniel Jones and push him into the pool and see what he does. So I'm going to go Christian McCaffrey here on this one. I know it's an easy call, but that's what I'm going with.
And just looking at Christian McCaffrey really quick, here's the PPR scoring, which could be close depending on your league, but he played in those 3 games, 28.5 points, 24.8 points, 37.1 points. And again, that's fantasy, but it kind of mirrors what he did in that game, and it was just absolutely was great. He had 10 catches in his last game that he played this past season, which is unreal. So Michael's going to say fiction on Saquon Barkley being the comeback player of the year. It's going to be Christian McCaffrey. Crystal ball, Nate, is it Saquon Barkley, fact or fiction?
I'm going fact here. I think he's going to have an Adrian Peterson comeback season. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if he went off for 2,000 yards, just blew it up. I just feel like he's that kind of dynamic player, and he reminds me kind of Adrian Peterson when Adrian Peterson was around that same age. I could see it. I could see it in that offense, and I think that Garrett would be smart to use Saquon, even with they've added Galladay and they want to let Daniel Jones loose. But the best way to let Daniel Jones loose is to give the ball to Saquon Barkley, because then they can run all sorts of play action. And they can really open up that passing game. Now, is Jason Garrett smart enough to do that? That's a good question. I don't know. If you ask Steffi Smalls, she would say absolutely not.
Don't ask her.
Don't ask her.
Be careful.
Be very careful. I could see CMC getting it as well. I don't think Burrow's going to. I'm still wondering, do we think he's going to be ready for week 1? I mean, he really tore his knee up bad.
It sounds like he's on track, but I know, Nate, you're right though for speculating, because there's a difference between being like, yeah, no, he's gonna be ready, and when he starts running around, starts doing things, what's gonna happen? Are we gonna get any swelling? This and that. So yeah, good point.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be Saquon, and I that's fact.
I definitely can't. I definitely won't judge anybody for going on there, because I do like Saquon. I just like a little bit more.
Yeah, makes sense. I hear you. I could go either way, really.
Yeah.
With Joe Burrow too, I mean, I thought the last time I heard anything, they said that they were optimistic for week 1, but I think when it comes to being a competitive organization, you don't say right now, in April 1, like, I think he might be ready, but maybe like week 4, especially if people don't release that sort of information to the press at times. But do you guys think
though?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, you're going to ask a question because it's your show. You ask it, and then I'll ask my question if you don't ask it.
I was shifting a little bit. So I was shifting a little bit. My one question, just kind of piggybacking off of this conversation, is we see. My one thought was, though, we see the quarterback position for a lot of awards gets kind of the advantage. The Heisman, obviously, Devonta Smith just won, but traditionally that's like a quarterback award. I mean, we've seen some other guys win it. The MVP of the season is typically a quarterback award in terms of, how many have won. Do you think that this award, though, let's say Joe Burrow comes back, he has a very good season, but Barkley and CMC have a great season. Do you think that quarterback position gives him any sort of a push for this award?
I would say no, only because I think the running backs in which we're talking about are that damn good. I mean, Nate talked about it. Nate compared them to Adrian Peterson, which again, I'm not rolling my eyes at it. That's the kind of running backs we're talking about here. So I would say no. I still think it'd be one of those two.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, unless Burrow goes out and throws for 50 touchdowns and 5,000 yards,
Yeah, he
Which
just
he
goes back
could.
to LSU days. Yeah,
Yeah,
it.
exactly. And if he does that, then he wins it, hands down.
And
But barring
like,
that, it's
and
So, Michael, you had a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was going to be because the draft. We talked about the draft, and apparently Burrow is campaigning for Jamar. We saw him yesterday run that 40, which everybody in LSU, you show up, you run a 4.440. There you go, and you go home with a whatever. Do you think that it's wise for them to do that, considering this knee injury he got against the Bills, got his knee absolutely caved in? Do you think it's a good idea to get the wide receiver he wants, or give him the lineman to help him out?
I think it's a weird border that they'll have to address, because obviously you want your franchise quarterback happy. And if he's like really pushing for his ex-teammate, you're going to hear him out. But at the same time, he got hurt, right? I mean, you want to protect this guy for the rest of his career as best as possible. If you look at Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd fell off, when Burrow was out of it. But fantasy related, Tyler Boyd was wide receiver 11 with Joe Burrow. And then T. Higgins, we all know, had a great rookie season. So add another guy into the mix. I don't know who it'll be, maybe an Auden Tate or something like that. But I think the priority for them needs to be protect this guy. He's already gotten hurt bad once. But yeah, Nate, what's your thoughts on that? That's a good question. I like that.
It's the same thing. They've got to go out and get protection for Burrow, unless they want to see him blow out his knee again and end his career, or tear his Achilles, or take a series of really bad concussions. Jamar Chase sounds nice, and it sounds like a nice reunion, but they simply just don't need him. With Boyd and Higgins, and if they get Auden Tate involved, and if Uzomah comes back healthy, and maybe they get a little bit of Drew Sample involved in that offense. I know that's maybe a stretch with Sample, but they have enough talent there. They don't need to grab Jamar Chase. They need to get offensive line help.
Yeah, it's more of a luxury rather than
yeah.
It's interesting though. I mean, if you have Joe Burrow, fantasy related, if you have Joe Burrow, you'd be ecstatic about that as long as he's protected. But if you have like a Higgins or Boyd, you'd be scratching your head like, how is this going to pan out now? That's a good question. You had another interesting comment that I want to touch on before we go into the next fact or fiction. You said something about or someone said something about like if he throws for 5,000 yards or something like that, which kind of brings me to this expanded NFL season. I mean, we might have guys throwing for a crazy amount of yards now. We can talk about it briefly, but what's your guys' thoughts about the expanded NFL season? Is this good? Is it bad? Are you kind of indifferent about it? Nate, what's your thoughts about this extended season now?
So the league loves to talk about player safety. But then you're going to add another game. Like, these guys aren't getting beat up enough over 16. And it's nice enough. It's nice. Okay, you got rid of a preseason game. So now we're down to 3. But let's be real here. None of the guys who are going to be playing in that 17th game would have been playing in that 4th preseason game. None of them. They're all on the bench. I think it's ridiculous. It's a money grab by the league. We don't need a 17th game. I mean, I love the idea of having 17 regular season games as a fan, but also as a fan and knowing these guys are human beings and they're just adding another 60 minutes that they could end their career. And some of these guys, their careers are so short anyway. I mean, your running backs have a 4 or 5 year shelf life, unless you're Frank Gore or Adrian Peterson. So you're just adding more wear and tear to them. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
Michael?
I think, and I think Twitter and social media, I think it almost kind of humanizes these football players in a way for us. So we tend to even like them more because we see them tweet, we follow them, we talk to them. Maybe they answer us back. Maybe some of them follow us. So I think it humanizes it in that way for us. So I think, to Nate's point, as a fan, cool, another football game, awesome. Fantasy, what does it mean? DFS, more money to be made. Cool, good idea. NFL thinks more money to be made. But yeah, you worry about these players because, hey, guess what? Without these players, there is no DraftKings. There is no this, that, and the other thing. There is no fantasy football. So it was an eventuality. I'm sure the players saw it coming. They weren't blindsided. They basically agreed to it more or less because they said, which I believe the CBA extends to 2030, they said that the NFL cannot add an 18th game until then. So, so they knew this was coming. We all knew this was coming. It's funny for, all the tweets, and I know it because I looked over to my wife and I said, "Hey, honey, there's gonna be another football game." And she's like, she said things I probably can't say here, but you worry about their safety, you worry about their health, but for fans, it's cool. Just roll with it. And like always, like any other game, whether it's week 1, week whatever, we're going to hope these guys stay healthy. So that's it.
Yeah, I mean, the financial piece obviously goes a long way, and that kind of is what pushes things, when it comes to decisions like that. But it'll be interesting for fantasy, obviously, how people approach things. I had a league commissioner from a home league, like a keeper league. He sent a text out, and he's like, "Hey, we need to figure out how to approach this." And I'm like, "Hey, let the big guys over at ESPN come out with some steps on what to do before we, as a home league, try to sort things out." But
approach it how? Like how are you going to approach it differently?
I have no idea. Maybe about how playoffs or the schedule is structured or something. It's just guys like thinking too far in advance and too complex.
Listen, very, very simply, blanket, just don't have your fantasy championship in the last week of the NFL season. That's it.
Boom,
whatever it is.
Problem solved right there.
I think the one thing, if anybody wants to worry, it's with the way in which we do running backs by committee now, like 3 down backs, like a dying breed. You have to wonder, do you spell a top running back a little bit more? But that's something that's going to happen well before you have your fantasy playoffs anyway. So just relax, guys. It's going to be all right, guys and gals.
Exactly. I think if you try to twist things too much when it comes to planning and, strategy just because of this, I think you might get kind of far off of the path you probably should have been on with your dynasty team or, redraft league, whatever the case is. But yeah. So fact or fiction, back on some fact or fiction. We talked a bit about comeback player of the year. We talked a little bit more about Joe Burrow and things that can happen with him. I have another quarterback, and I don't want to get into actual allegations or anything along those lines, but it is a question that has come up about Deshaun Watson. So my question to you guys here is, first, Deshaun Watson wanted out of the Texans, right? Nothing's really happened. There's been rumors of people making, trade offers, things like that. Then all of these allegations came out against Deshaun Watson. And, we can say what we, think about those. That's not probably for this podcast. But with all these mixture of, he wants out, and now there's allegations. They probably can't trade him right now. And, him versus the Texans sort of thing. There's a lot of variables. So a lot of people have been talking about, what do I do with Deshaun Watson in my dynasty team? Or, should I draft him in redraft? There's some good fantasy questions related to this. So fantasy fact or fiction, Deshaun Watson will play more than half the season in 2021. So we're rubbing the crystal ball right now, and we'll go to Nate on this one. Will he play more than half the games 2021?
Fiction. Not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. I can't imagine a scenario in which all of these things are tied up and figured out to where he's playing half the season. I think the Texans are ready to move in another direction, given everything that's happened and him requesting a trade. He's untradeable at this point. Seems like a holdout to me, if that's even an option for him. If there's a thought of him playing, he's a holdout because nobody's going to touch him. He's toxic at this point. I don't see him taking a single snap this season.
All right, so Nate says fiction that Deshaun Watson will play more than half the games. Michael, is it fact or fiction that he will play more than half the games?
I'm going to go fiction for now. I don't know if he misses the whole year, but it sucks. I made a tweet about a week or two ago. It was like, from a storyline at the beginning of the offseason, was like Deshaun Watson wants to get traded, and it was fun. It was, where's he gonna go? He's in Brooklyn. He's wearing the color green. His friends put this on Instagram. Like, we went from that to very, very serious things. Now, the only thing I'll say, and again, we're gonna have to this is gonna have to go to court, this and that. We're waiting for actual, whatever specifics, again, stuff that we won't get into here, but we're waiting for the information that really just solidifies whether this is, but like, I also said this on the FFA stuff. Like, this isn't like, like when people are like, oh, it's probably just, it is probably just like a money grab. Well, this isn't like a Batman movie where like all the villains get together and they're like, "Hey, let's take this guy down." Like that's not how that works. So, I think the NFL at some point has to step in, has to put him on the commissioner's exempt list, until they figure all this stuff out. And so I think he'll play at some point, but I don't see how he starts the season with this going the way it's going, and it's going to have to roll out. So, because could you imagine the NFL putting him out there on week 1 with all this stuff if there's no resolution? No way.
No way.
Man,
No way.
Have fun from a PR standpoint.
And what we don't know, like the timeline for stuff like that, because typically a court sort of case or order that doesn't get solved overnight, unless something crazy happens where I can't even get into something like that. I don't know. But, a lot of us were questioning, if he did not get moved from the Texans before any of that happened, will he play a snap? Will he, hold out, things like that. So you had that big variable hanging up in the air. And now you add this, and it's not the same, but it's kind of similar. It's like putting a guy, on the trade block, or saying, denying some offers for somebody in fantasy, and then a week later that guy gets hurt, and then nobody's going to trade for him, right? He's out for the year. But it's like the mentality with that now. I mean, nobody's going to offer, what he could have been worth right now until things are settled. So it's crazy. I don't know. It's definitely up in the air.
And now you hear other stuff where some other massage therapists are coming out and saying that he's fine. He's not a problem. Like that they say all wonderful things about him. So also, how many massage therapists was this guy going to? But whatever, because he's being accused by, like 21 now or whatever the number is. So
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's just if you have him for fantasy, if you have him in a dynasty,
that was my next question. Get into that. Yeah,
you have him in dynasty. If you have him in keeper, listen, this isn't the convenient answer. This isn't what you want to hear. But if you have him in dynasty, you hold him, because if he plays this, however it happens, I'm not going to tell you how it happens, but if the end result is that this goes away for whatever reason, or it turns out to be whatever, he's going to play, and he's an athlete, and he's a fantastic athlete, as he's shown you, and he's going to be good. If you're in a keeper league, though, and if you have to announce your keepers by like X date, that's a tough decision you're going to have to make. And honestly, I'm sorry, but I don't have that answer for you in March. I don't. You're going to have to wait and see. Most people don't have to announce their keepers till August or till July, so you'll have time for that. But yeah,
I think it's 3 very different approaches. I mean, as of today, things can change, but I mean, redraft, keeper, and dynasty. You don't want to sell him for pennies right now just because of speculatives. I mean, if you're playing dynasty, you're playing dynasty for the long run, and quarterbacks should be playing for a long time. Like you said with keepers, though. That's when you got to make some decisions on guys, and you don't want to get burned by keeping 4 guys or something like that, and that not working out. And then redraft. I mean, if he's the last pick of the draft or something like that, and you want to take a shot, fine. But I mean, otherwise, there's too many guys to draft to even take the chance.
If he's there in a redraft league, like as late as you're talking about, listen, this was like Antonio last year. This is like other. And we're not condoning the acts in which they're accused of, but people will take advantage of opportunities. If there's an opportunity it's like, honestly, and I'm not trying to minimize what he's being accused of, but when you take him in a redraft and when there's accusations up in the air and you don't know which way it's going to go, it's like buying a scratch off. I might turn out okay here. I might lose my money. And you have to be okay with it when you make that pick, but somebody in your league will do it. Right or wrong, they'll do it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Nate, just a heads up, having some technical difficulties. Should be jumping back in though. We'll carry the rest of these questions here until he gets back. Yeah, I know. It's like a straight up interview. I got the interview going on right now.
Sweet.
So the next one, all right, next one on my list. We've talked quarterbacks now. Let's shift to the running back position a little bit here. So there's a handful of teams in the league that might be looked at as in need of a running back, right? The Cardinals might make a move. Dolphins, I like asking, but they're looked at as a team that potentially might make a draft move. The Jets signed Coleman, might make a draft move. The Steelers are another team that might make some sort of move. Yeah, I would think, I'd hope so. I got a couple fun facts here to get into before I ask you the question. So the Buffalo Bills, a lot of people were really hoping that one of these good running backs like Aaron Jones or somebody else that was on the market might go to Buffalo because that's just such a nice spot. Great offense. They signed Matt Breida. So if you combined, here's a fun fact. If you combine the 2020 rushing yards of all three, Singletary, Moss, and Matt Breida, it would have been less than both Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook. So you took three guys that got touches. It's not like they got 10 touches. They all got some touches.
Yeah,
so if you combine all their rushing yards, less than Derrick Henry and less than Dalvin Cook. Another fun fact, 23 running backs in the league last year had more rushing yards than all three of these backs. So, I mean, not a super great running back room right now. My question to you, Michael, is fantasy fact or fiction? In 2021, the Buffalo Bills will have the worst running back room in the league.
I think I've said fiction on all of your questions so far, which I feel kind of rude. You invite me and you give me all these things. Yeah, and I say, no, not going to have it. This one, I will take it. I will say fact. And
all right.
Here's the thing, and this is the one thing with like just not fantasy Twitter, fantasy in general. Because if you have a conversation with somebody, they'll have if they like a player, if they like a Zach Moss, if they like Devin Singletary. I'm sure Zach Moss, if he was drafted to a different team at that time, maybe if he was drafted to the 49ers or if he was drafted to whomever, he would be in a better fantasy position than he is now. Doesn't mean he's not a good player. Doesn't mean he sucks. Doesn't mean he's this or that. But this is the thing that bothers me about like NFL draft. People watch these players run 40s and they watch them run cone drills and they watch them jump high and they say, wow, this guy's so good. He's going to crush it in the NFL. There's father time, right? Catches everybody. Well, there's also coaching schemes that catch everybody as well. They can either help you thrive or they can help you dive. And in this case, this is why I think this is one of the worst backfields. It's not so much because of talent. I don't think they're going to use these guys properly. That's the thing. And my wife just texted me. She's in the other room. She said, every time I say Zach Moss, she thinks I say Zach Morris. So I'm not saying Zach Morris. I am saying Zach Moss. So
does she happen to be a fan of one or the other?
Is she a fan of Zach Moss or Zach Morris?
Yeah, I'm just curious. I don't.
She would definitely be a fan of Zach Morris. Yeah.
Okay.
She wouldn't like Zach Moss because Zach Moss makes me watch football, and therefore he is the enemy.
Just doesn't line up there.
He's guilty by association. But I'll say, I think it's fact, and I just think it's because you look at Devin Singletary, right? He was the best fantasy running back for Buffalo. He had only 2 occurrences in PPR formats where he had 10 points or more in consecutive games. Only 2 occurrences. He had about 4 games in which he had less than 5 fantasy points. That's your number one running back. That's your number one fantasy running back. So, yeah, I think they're unsexy, but I think they're unsexy by design. As opposed to, I think the bridesmaid to this conversation would be the Jets. We'll see what they do in the draft, but I mean, Tevin Coleman and the Michael P. Ryan. Yeah.
Not super sexy either right there.
No, and here's the other deal, by the way. Just avoid these guys in redraft. Don't draft them and bitch about them later. And I'm sorry, should I say bitch? Is that okay? I could say bitch. So.
These are labeled explicit. It's funny because I jumped on somebody else's podcast and he told me before his show, he goes, Nick, I've listened to a couple of your shows and this is a clean podcast. It's family friendly, just to let you know. So I go, oh, okay, all right, that's fine, fair enough. But all good. I don't see it with Buffalo. So whatever. Got some fans in the chat here, boosting you up here. Hey, that's our guy Chris Pinto. Ooh. All right. The Jets I think have a good opportunity to take a decent back in this draft class. We'll see what they do. If they don't, they might be in the running for this, but I think I wondered if you have pass catchers on Buffalo in fantasy, let's say you have Diggs, you have Gabriel Davis, I don't know, Cole Beasley. Does not having an elite running back kind of make you more happy because obviously it's saying that the pass is more important to this offense? Because if you look on paper, it might be the case. I don't know, something I thought about.
Yeah, I guess it makes you happy, but then again, I'm of the mindset, which listen, I can be proven wrong, but I don't think that they're going to draft a running back to say, "Hey, we're now going to do this." And you pass catchers, if you're worried about numbers, now you need to worry.
Yeah.
I don't think they're even going to be put in that spot. And again, that's just the way in which the offense is designed. Yeah. So I could, if I could say one last thing. I think with the NFL draft coming up, people looking at all these running backs, let's remember 3 down backs is a dying breed. We've got Derrick Henry doing his push-ups on the bands with the chain around him like Mr. T, and he's, absolute animal. Those days are just about gone. Think about it. How many other guys like Derrick Henry are out there? So when you watch a running back run a 40, or when you watch him jump, or you watch him do this and that, remember, he's probably going to enter a situation where he will not be a 3 down back. So get that out of your mind and fix it into your head. How would I rank this guy if he's in the system? Is he the best guy in the system? Is he the second best guy in the system? Think about that.
That's an interesting point. When I do stuff in my home workout, my basement down there, I sometimes picture I'm Derrick Henry. Doesn't really align, but at the same time, great point there, because obviously things kind of change in the league. I mean, we just talked about Buffalo. Who's their goal line back? It's Josh Allen. We look at some other systems, and who gets the touches where? Sometimes it's different. Who gets the receptions? It's different. There's not a lot of the Christian McCaffreys who are carrying the ball, and they're catching the ball, and they're lining up some other places. So that's a good point there.
I'm not sure if I mentioned it, and I'll say one last point, and then we've got Nate back. So then we'll kick it to whatever we got to do. But I'll just say that in saying the Buffalo Bills, I do think that those teams where we frown upon them as running backs, you could still utilize them for like best ball purposes, because they'll probably go late if you can get them for best ball purposes, because there were like 2 weeks where Zach Moss went off. There was a couple weeks, obviously I mentioned there was 2 occurrences in which Devin Singletary had back-to-back weeks of double-digit fantasy points. You could still get something, but you can't rely on them in redraft, is my point.
That's a good point there. Let's go to our next topic, and we'll start Nate off on this one. We're talking again about running backs, so it kind of shifts to another running back topic. Looking at the rookies from this past season, so in 2020, I looked at weeks 1 through 16 PPR purposes. James Robinson, RB4, Jonathan Taylor, RB7, Antonio Gibson, RB12, CEH, RB19, DeAndre Swift, RB20, J.K. Dobbins, RB31, and everyone's favorite new quads running back, A.J. Dillon, RB83. For Detroit, I looked at Detroit. There's a lot of moving pieces, obviously. They had a change in quarterback. Their wide receiver 1 right now is, I don't know, who is it? It's kind of up in the air. Is Tyrell Williams over there now? Is it Quintez Cephas? A lot of moving parts that actually might be in the favor of DeAndre Swift having an elevated role in this offense. I know Jamal Williams came, but I don't think he's really a world beater. So fact or fiction? I just listed off a bunch of these incoming sophomore running backs. DeAndre Swift will have the biggest sophomore jump for fantasy purposes in 2021. And Nate, we can start off with you. Is that fact or fiction?
Oh, that's fact, and that's a hill I will die on leading into the season. Okay. I haven't seen a lot of people talking about this, but this is something I keep bringing up anytime that we talk about DeAndre Swift and what he's going to be next season. And with Jamal Williams coming in, I don't think that's really a big deal. He wasn't the guy in Green Bay. He didn't even really make a dent in Aaron Jones's production when Jones was healthy. He's not going to take a dent out of anything that DeAndre Swift was going to see before he got there. You have to have a backup. You have to have a guy to spell your main lead back. Jared Goff's best season was when Todd Gurley had his best season. Jared Goff needs that elite back to be successful. When Gurley fell off and then they went to the running back by committee, Goff looked awful. He just did not look good because he didn't have that security blanket out of the backfield. He gets that back with DeAndre Swift. And I think that we're going to see Swift wasn't really used last season. I mean, for some reason, Patricia was just like, let's just give the ball to Adrian Peterson, give the ball to Adrian Peterson, give the ball to Adrian Peterson. This year, it's going to be give the ball to DeAndre Swift. throw to him out of the backfield. You're going to be his usage is going to drastically increase, and I think he's got to be a top 10 in 2021. I can't see him being any less than a top 10 running back.
All right. I like that, just, strictly as a DeAndre Swift truther. Curious to hear what Michael says. So, again, if you're listening, fact or fiction, DeAndre Swift will have the biggest sophomore jump for fantasy purposes in 2021.
Well, again, we joked around earlier that I kept going fiction on you. You invite me on the show, you give me all your points, and I say fiction, all of them, get that crap out of here. But this one, again, back to back, belly to belly. I'm going fact. I like DeAndre.
Love it.
Listen, and this is my biggest thing with fantasy. People always say, do you watch film? Do you do this? Do you do that? Sure, I do all these things. But you know what I look at? I look at coaching staffs. I look at who's coming in. I look at what's their objective. This coaching staff has said from the get-go. And listen, we can talk about all the kneecap biting and have fun with that. It's funny talk. It's good. It's fun. It's a laugh. I like it. Listen, they bring in all of these coaches geared towards running the ball. This team wants to run the ball. Jared Goff is going to be in a much different scheme, and he's probably okay with that. And you should draft him accordingly. And Nate, you made great points too about Todd Gurley when Todd Gurley was running wild as opposed to when Todd Gurley was running with a limp. I think DeAndre Swift, they're going to give him every single opportunity to succeed here. I think he wholeheartedly makes the biggest jump among those sophomore running backs for sure, hands down. I don't even know if anybody can make a case for another one to have a bigger jump over Swift.
I think a lot of people have talked about these guys in different ways. J.K. Dobbins, RB31. Some people think that he's going to take all the RB touches, but at the same time, this is a 3-headed rushing system with Lamar Jackson, Gus Edwards, and J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah,
not that he's not extremely talented.
I'll say this. If anybody thinks that J.K. Dobbins will have a better sophomore season than DeAndre Swift, you come on over to my town. I got a beautiful bridge I'm going to sell you. It's going to be real cheap. It's going to be nice and easy.
He's got an email address associated with this sort of request too, if anybody's interested. So
yeah, that's it.
All right, skipping around so we can hit some of these points here. Talking again about rookies. So we just talked about DeAndre Swift. I love those takes. I'm a huge Swift truther. I have a signed jersey. I got a jersey that's number 6 for the Lions, which is his camp number. Which was wrong. Yeah, so that was wrong. I was so excited about Swift that I went and bought his China jersey, and it was number 6.
I'm looking at all those other jerseys you have back there too.
Oh yeah, I got 40, 50. I mean, I got the basketball and some other ones, but yeah, I just rotate these. I'm a jersey fiend. So with you got one just hanging out in the background over there.
I got a Jarvis Landry.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
From Pristine Auction. I know everybody hates him, but he won't die. He's Frank Gore. I've got his signed jersey here. And also, what do I got back there? I've got Fred Warner because I'm a Niner guy. And,
Fred Warner. Yeah.
Up and running back. So there you go.
Maybe Frank Gore. We talked about the Buffalo Bills earlier. Maybe he steps into that system there. I don't know.
I love Frank Gore. He just won't go away. So fantastic.
No, never. And then one day we'll just blink and he's go ahead.
I was gonna say I love when he signs with the team and the whole fantasy community is like
yeah.
They're all
he snipes some touches always.
Yeah.
This past season we just talked about DeAndre Swift, Justin Herbert, James Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, Justin Jefferson were all players that finished as rookies top 10 in the position. So top 10 these guys. I've asked this question a bunch of times because I'm always curious to hear everybody's opinion on this because right now it's rookie season. Everybody's very high in all the rookies. Michael, you said earlier, a guy jumps high, runs fast, and he's automatically going to be elite. When it comes to this next rookie class, 2021 rookie class, fact or fiction, we will once again, back-to-back years, have a quarterback, a running back, and a wide receiver finish in the top 10 for the position. So, Michael, we'll start with you on this. Is it fact or fiction?
This one, I'm going to go back to the fiction. I'm going to go back to the poo-pooing, and it's because of the running back position. I'm not discounting these running backs and what they're able to do. I'm not discounting their talent. I'm not saying that they're not good. I'm saying that I don't know that they're going to be drafted on the teams that are going to allow them to be top 10. If there's injuries, obviously that's unforeseen stuff. Then we'll see what happens. But I'll kick it to Nate. I'll actually keep this one short, and I'll just simply say no. And it's for that reason alone.
And it's interesting too, just to cut in real fast about the running backs. We look at this past season, and some of the better guys were hurt. I mean, some of the better guys miss a lot of time. Nick Chubb missed a lot of games, even though he finished still pretty high for fantasy. CMC, we talked about, he was out of the picture. Saquon Barkley, out of the picture. He's in the background here. I'm a big Eckler guy. He missed a lot of games too. So there was a lot of guys out of the picture. So that'll be interesting. Nate, we'll go to you on this. So again, saying the question here, fact or fiction, in 2021, we will again see a quarterback, running back, and a wide receiver finish top 10 for the position.
I'm saying fiction as well. And Michael, like, you stole the words out of my mouth. I just don't love this running back. No. We're on the same page. I just don't love this running back class. I think Najee Harris is probably the best one in the bunch, and I don't think he finishes top 10. And I don't care where he lands or what the situation is. I think I felt the same way about CEH when everyone was so high on him last season. I was like, whoa, stop drafting him in the first round. What are you guys doing?
Yep.
And I think this class is just not going to produce one. Quarterback, wide receiver, sure, could have two, but running back, probably none.
I didn't even say tight end, and I'm sure a lot of people would, throw their hat in saying, "Hey, maybe."
Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. You know what? Is there a team that, if a running back goes there, is there a team that that one of you guys is like, all right, like I'm in, I'm down with this? Like, is there a team that excites you?
I don't know. For me personally, the Cardinals, maybe, if the guy gets the lead job and Chase Edmonds doesn't, swallow up too much work, I think that's the one offense I can think of that needs probably a lead back. I like Chase Edmonds. A lot of people argue with me on this, but I'm not sure he's a workhorse back. I don't think he's an RB1 on a team. So that'd be my pick. The Jets, I don't think would be, RB10 material. And then you look across the board, even a team like the Dolphins. I mean, Myles Gaskin, Salvon Ahmed, both were very good last season on different parts. So I think it'd be hard to say, hey, this guy's going to get the lead job and nobody else is going to touch this role. And the Cardinals are the only one that I can think of. Nate, that's a good question. What do you think?
I'm with you on the Cardinals. I could see it in Miami, maybe, just because I don't know how much they trust Gaskin, and I don't think Ahmed is really an every down guy. I think he's more of our lead guy's hurt, our RB1's hurt. Let's get him in there a little bit.
Not to cut you off, but I got in an argument with like 3 people because they told me that Ahmed, I'm pretty sure that's how you say it, was the new lead back, that he was way better than Myles Gaskin, and they were just arguing that he was like the man. But yeah, go ahead with yours.
No, I mean, those are really the only 2 teams, maybe, but probably not. I mean, I don't think there's a situation out there where any of these top backs are going to really just blow up.
The other team I'm just thinking about too, and Michael, we can get your thoughts on a team afterwards. The Pittsburgh Steelers would be interesting. I mean, who's their guy? Who's their guy right now? Benny Snell or McFarland? These guys didn't really look good with their touches this past season. So, I mean, that's a good offense that moves the ball up the field. So, I mean, can scoring opportunities be there for the Steelers? I think so. So I might throw them in the hat too. What do you think about your question? It's a good question.
Yeah, no, and I would say that I do think that the Steelers are one, and I do think that this goes into my point. What I was saying earlier is that we need to judge these guys when they're coming out, when they're getting drafted. They're not going to be these 3 down backs. So think about it. Where can they best succeed with what they have to work with? So I think you bring up a great point. I think Pittsburgh is a good spot. I even think my Niners, if any particular running backs, maybe at North Carolina or anywhere else, if they go towards, second round or wherever else, the Niners might be a good spot because they've got Mostert. I love Mostert to death, but he hasn't been the poster child of health. They've got Jeff Wilson there. My name is Jeff, but sometimes he gets hurt as well. So yep. I just think that, there's room to succeed there as well with San Francisco. But again, you have to this is why I say you judge these backs not based on will they be 3 down backs, but what can they give you once they land where they land.
Yeah, because you might be in love with a guy like Najee Harris, but if he's not getting the touches that are going to make him fantasy valuable
saying.
year one, I mean
Yeah.
that's what it comes down to. And
Like,
I know it's cliche saying play to win, but at the same time, I mean if you are trying to win a championship in your league, I mean you got to think about these things.
like just
Yeah.
imagine for a hot second if Zach Moss, like you mentioned Pittsburgh, just in general would be a good spot for these upcoming running backs. Imagine Zach Moss was drafted there, played behind James Conner, spelled him here and there. James Conner's gone. They're not going to re-sign him because they got salary cap problems. They like players that they can control contractually. You got Zach Moss sitting right there. Beautiful.
Mhm.
Gold mine.
Yeah.
Which would work out well for both players because it would be Zach Moss in Pittsburgh. It would be Christmas all time. But that's basically what I'm saying it's a talented running back in a situation in which he could thrive. Unfortunately, I don't think Buffalo's it. And yeah,
I think
So,
the talk
I hate
about
it for Zach Moss, to be honest.
yeah, that I mean, it's just
I
not
do.
it's not the best path right now to, something that we can all like agree on and
Yeah.
get behind. But yeah, I think Zach Moss on the Steelers would have been what, a lot of people wanted AJ Dillon to be on the Packers before the actual RB1 came back. But that's another story. That's another story. Last topic, just because
Lot
we're
of
getting
broken
close to
hearts.
the I kind of liked it for two reasons. Because a lot of Packers fans got loud about it, and I'm a Bears fan, so I like to hear, the ups and downs of these opinions. And then for two, there were so many people saying, they were climbing AJ Dillon completely up the board, and I understand the Packers O-line was like number 2 this year and things like that. But man, we got to be careful with some of our valuations.
That's
Sometimes.
the problem.
But,
I get invited on the podcast, and I just want to talk. I have all these questions. I have, You're a Bears guy. What do you think of Andy Dalton?
so
Are you irate? Are you okay?
I mean, this was my analogy. So I think you might have had the scratch off analogy before, and I have the same sort of one. So my analogy is you get a scratch off, and usually when you hit 2 in a row, you think you are so close to winning that number. So to me, it's like having a scratch off, and I scratch off 2 $100 winnings back to back. So people are looking at me saying, hey, you are so close. It looks like you got a good chance of winning $100. $100 would have been Russell Wilson, right? So at the end of the scratch off, I win $10, and somebody tells me, hey, you won $10. I mean, that's good, right? And I'm looking at the card saying, no, I thought I was going to win $100. Like, I mean, the $10, I already had $10, and $10 is already in my pocket. That's Mitch Trubisky, Dalton's another $10. I wanted the $100, and that was Russell Wilson. So as a Bears fan, that's my quick vent. But it sucks. It sucks because I'm not going to talk about 60 years of Bears football, but I'm almost I'm 29, almost 30. I've never woke up on an NFL Sunday and been excited about a Bears quarterback. I just don't know the feeling. So that's my feeling that remains right now, and that's all.
Sorry, never mind. Even though you answered.
Yeah. Sorry. That's my Bears. That's my Bears. That's my Bears vent right there. But I appreciate the ask. We'll see. All right. Last question. Not Bears related. We can talk about the Bears, or I could talk about the Bears too much. But a lot of people juggle around who the wide receiver one for Dynasty is. I literally, throughout the season, I check Dynasty rankings from sites often, and it's gone up and down. I've seen some people say DK Metcalf for a little bit. I saw some people say Justin Jefferson's now the wide receiver one in Dynasty. I've seen Devontae Adams. I've seen A.J. Brown. Somebody today said, CeeDee Lamb should be in that mix. My question to you guys is, fact or fiction, due to him already being towards the top of the list of wide receivers and is tied to Patrick Mahomes, is Tyreek Hill the Dynasty wide receiver one because of those ties? And Nate, we'll go to you to start, and then we'll finish with Michael.
So I'll say fact. I think the skill level paired with Mahomes, I mean, it's just a recipe for him to be great again in 2021, in 2022, in 2023. He's just so good and so fast. And Mahomes they're both so young. These guys are going to be together for a long time. And I think that Tyreek Hill is going to be one of those guys when he's 34, 35 years old. We're talking about, man, he's had a long career, but look at him still producing at this high level. So, yeah, I'd say fact.
All right. So Nate says fact. Michael, is it fact or fiction due to the tie to Patrick Mahomes and other factors? Tyreek Hill is the dynasty wide receiver one.
I'll go fact for now, but it's a very loose fact, and it's based upon the fact that Tyreek Hill will be an unrestricted free agent in 2023. Devontae Adams he's who I have really is my dynasty number one. He's an unrestricted free agent in 2022. You have to imagine they'll get deals done, but the only thing that concerns me is I've seen some chatter about the Chiefs going after wide receivers. Chiefs wanting to sign a bigger wide receiver. Apparently, there were some rumors kicked around about Kenny Galladay. Whatever, take that for what you will. Maybe they address it in the draft. So, we have to remember that teams like the Chiefs, they're going to go to the Super Bowl. They're going to be in the thick of things a lot with Pat Mahomes. They might enter situations in which, we watched the Buccaneers orchestrate this masterfully, like Beethoven, just be able to keep their guys. And if they need to keep certain guys, maybe Tyreek Hill doesn't fit in those plans. So that's the only thing that worries me about that. But, but for now, only because he has a extra year under contract with the Chiefs than Devontae Adams does with the Packers, I will say yes. I will say fact.
Yeah, it was interesting too. I think Juju was rumored to receive an offer from Kansas City as well. Yeah. So a lot of people will talk about Travis Kelce in that mix and his importance in the offense, but yeah, I mean that's just a topic juggled around so much. I think on my last rankings, I had Adams as one, but then I start thinking about ties for I don't know the next handful of years. I know contracts are a factor as well. Do you guys? Just a side question. Do you guys actually tie in contracts when it comes to any sort of like thoughts on rankings?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you have to.
Yeah. I mean, I basically just did when talking about this dynasty question, because how long are they going to be there for? I listen, spotrack.com or whatever you use to look up your contracts. It's an absolute thing of beauty. People, you look at the numbers, 4 years, 72 million. Oh my God, 72 million. Well, look into where is that money going? How much of it's up front? How much of it's on the back end? That'll really give you, a clear vision or a clear-ish vision of where teams might go there. So yeah, I think people should definitely look at that stuff when they're evaluating these sorts of things for sure.
Absolutely, especially if like running backs, if a guy's got a clear job on one team, it does not mean that on his next team, if he does move on, that he's going to have a clear job, a clear starting job sort of thing. So yeah, that's a good point there. We are past the hour mark, so we're going to wrap things up here. We probably could have kept going here, but I get some texts and get yelled at, so I don't want to chance that right now. But I do want to thank you guys. You guys have not been on the stream before, so I'm super happy I got both of you guys on because, again, a fan of what you guys got going on, what you guys do, and just you two as people. So thank you for both coming on. We'll start with Nate. Can you let us again know where to find you on social media and anything you want to plug that's coming up?
All right, yeah, you can find me at JanateJackFF on Twitter, at IBT_media on Twitter, In Between Media on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. You can find us. We got some cool stuff coming up, possibly a Dynasty-focused show. And then we've got that Golf DFS show starting up again next Wednesday.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And Michael, where can we find you and anything you want to plug for what you got going on?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at the FF Realist. That's where I keep pumping all the stuff I do. I'm dabbling a little bit into some baseball content, which is like uncharted territory for me as far as writing, but just trying to keep busy. So that's at the Game Day. They have the Game Day NFL. They have MLB. They literally they're one of the up and coming sites, so they're covering a lot of stuff. So you can check out my work there. It's all there at my Twitter profile. At the FF Realist. And, of course, the big thing is the mental health podathon. We're going to work to get that going. We made $6K last year. We're going to look to make $10K this year. That is the goal. Help mental health, suicide prevention. Anybody wants to check out Hayden Hurst's story, go to Hayden Hurst Family Foundation, go to their website, find everything there. And both of you guys, I would love to have you guys on as guests. You guys reach out to me. We'll get you guys involved. We're going to go 24 hours, which was another thing when I mention it to the wife. I tried to mention it and cough quick, but she knew. She's smart. She's wise to my ass. I can't get anything by her. So she knows. So, but it's for a good cause. We'll have a good time. So yeah.
I kid you not. I just hit like my 1 year anniversary of P2W, and I distinctly remember this time last year. Obviously not today, but the podathon, and I remember seeing you guys on it, and I was brand new to the space, and I was looking, and I'm like, man, these guys are on it for a long time. And I checked back after I ran some errands. I'm like, these guys are still live right now. What is going on? Great cause. So that is awesome. Yeah, definitely would love any sort of involvement. So yeah, everybody should be looking forward to that, especially with what was raised and what can be raised.
I mean, the rush of that keeps you going to know that you're trying to help people and help people that are jammed up, especially when you've experienced those sorts of things. It's, I know Anthony has, my podcast partner, he's dealt with a lot of things with mental health. It just that's what keeps you going when you're podcasting as long as you are that day. So, yeah. But I invite you guys both to join us.
Would love to.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's actually my wife's field. She works at a behavioral hospital, so she's around everything. I'm super excited about that, and it's a great cause. So again, thank you guys for coming on for P2W Fantasy. We will have some more articles coming out within the next week or two for football, baseball, and basketball as those wrap up. And then I'll have probably 2 streams next week going on. So that'll be what we'll be doing over here. So again, thank you for everybody that listened. All you guys in the comments, man, really appreciate it. I can just list off all the guys that popped in. Had Mendy, had Chris, had Josh Smokey, had D Brown. Many guys. Yeah. The boys, my guy, Kevin, my buddy, Martin, all these guys.
Smokey
so thank you.
Get me on his show.
Hey, that's a soft plug right there. There
Where
you
go.
At,
Smokey? Man,
you might,
man alive.
He did say # mental health matters. All right. We're gonna close things out. So have a nice night, everybody.